Welcome. This is a quick recording to review our mid-segment, our triangle mid-segment property that we have an open CER with in Linkit. On this slide here is a review of what a mid-segment is by definition. In this image, it's DE. It's a line segment in the triangle that joins two midpoints of the two sides of the triangle. I know that point D is a midpoint because of these hash marks on both sides. And so because there's one here and one here, they're telling me that those two pieces of the side of the triangle are equal, and therefore D is right in the center or midpoint. Same thing with E. E is also a midpoint. I know because there's two hash marks on either side. They're the same, and therefore point E is a midpoint. The mid-segment connects those two midpoints of the triangle. It is parallel to the third side. And our property is that that third side is double the mid-segment. So if the mid-segment is 5, then the bottom of the triangle, or the third side, would be 5 times 2, or 10. So that's our property, the property of a mid-segment. If we have one, then we could use that property to figure out either the mid-segment piece or the third side of the triangle. So I'm going to fast forward to one of the examples that we did in class. I'm going to do this one here. And let me also block out this so we can look at each piece one at a time. Okay. And so I'm going to share this example with you. However, this full slide show is posted in the course both in the triangle mid-segment section as well as the CER review for this mid-segment CER that's currently open in Linkit. So you could go back and go through the entire review. There's lots of examples if you choose, or all of the class recordings are available through ClassLink. If you're not sure how to get those or which ones to use, just let me know. You could send me a quick email and I could grab them for you or tell you what dates to go to if you're interested in watching the recordings. Anyway, if you are able to answer this question here, then you're ready for the CER. So on the left-hand side, we have our image, and it's telling us, look at the diagram. If Tx is y plus 35, and UW is equal to y, what is Tx? And so what I'm going to do is label my triangle. And so when you're in Linkit, if you cannot label, you could just draw a triangle for yourself on your own piece of paper and label it for yourself. I think that would be really helpful. So it's telling me Tx is y plus 35. So where Tx is, I'm going to write y plus 35. And then it's telling me UW is y, so I'm just going to put a y right here where UW is. And so now I could see where each piece goes on the triangle. I think it will be more clear. So now I want to go ahead and answer the CER. However, I can't answer it yet. I first need to do my evidence, or I have to work out all of my calculations. So I'm going to do that part first. So let's uncover this here. And our equation says that the third side of the triangle is going to be equal to 2 times the midsegment, just like we were reviewing previously. The third side in this case on this triangle is Tx, the bottom, or where you have that labeled, or parallel to the midsegment, however you want to find it. It's the longer of the sides that they give you in the problem. And so in our case, Tx is our third side, so I wrote in Tx under the third side. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the 2, and now I want to put in my midsegment. In this triangle, the midsegment is UW. So I wrote UW. Again, this part is not absolutely necessary, but I think it keeps everything in order and you're less likely to make a mistake if you keep going down and putting things underneath like I am here and labeling. And so now I want to substitute in what they've given me in the problem. They told me Tx is y plus 35. I also have it labeled here, so I wrote that in. And uv is equal to y, so I wrote that in as well. And now I just have to solve the algebra. So the first thing I did here is just get rid of the parentheses. 2 times y is 2y. So again, just showing every single step. And then I'm going to subtract y from both sides. And that leaves me with my answer already. And similarly, when you get to the CER in the course, there's not a whole lot of algebra to do there either. So now I have that y is equal to 35, but that's not my final answer because they've asked me what is Tx. So they're not asking me to just solve for y, they're asking me for the side of the triangle. So over here on the right hand side, I kept going. Tx, again, if we look at our image, is y plus 35. So I wrote that in. We solved for y, 35. So now we have 35 plus 35. And therefore our final answer is 70. So again, to just recap, the first thing you want to do with your CER is possibly label for yourself. Then go over and do all of your calculations. This is the equation you're using right here. Everyone's doing the same one. So third side is equal to 2 times the midsegment. Plug everything in, solve, and then take whatever you solve for and plug it back into that side that they're asking for. In this case, ours was Tx. Now that I have my final answer, I could go back and write my claim. Your claim should be in sentence form, so you don't want to just write Tx equals 70. You want to write it all out, make one sentence, and it should be the first thing that appears in your answer. Even though you have to solve your calculations first, you should then go up on top of it and write your claim statement as the first thing someone sees when they go to read it. And so I'm just going to write the measure of segment Tx is 70. So you just put it into sentence form and that's it. That gives you full credit for the claim and full credit for the evidence. And now we have one more part to go, and that's the reasoning. And so at the bottom here, the reasoning is to explain what you did. How did you know you have a midsegment? Why did you write that equation that you did? Right? Why did you go back and then plug back in to solve for that side? Just anything that went through your head that helped you to solve this problem. However, there's also one more important piece here, and that is vocabulary. So we're talking about a midsegment here. It's important to mention what a midsegment is in your reasoning and how you know that you have a midsegment. And so here is the list that I had shared in class that we talked about the things that should appear in your reasoning. And so if you go back over to the problem itself, it doesn't say anywhere in the problem that you are looking at a midsegment. And so how do we know that we have a midsegment? So the best thing to do is to describe that in your reasoning. And in this case, I know because of these hash marks, just like we were talking about on that review definition slide. These hash marks are telling me that W is a midpoint. And these two hash marks are telling me U is a midpoint. And the definition of a midsegment is that it connects two midpoints of the triangle and is parallel to that third side. And so that should appear somewhere in your reasoning. You should explain, look at the image that you're given and explain, how do you know that you have a midsegment in your image? What are we looking at? How did you figure that out? Then secondly, you could define what a midsegment is, which again, the first two kind of go hand in hand. If you describe how you know you have a midsegment in your image, then at the same time, you're probably also defining it. But it's important to include that vocabulary term midsegment in the reasoning. That's the whole point of the reasoning, is to explain what you're doing and link it back to the content that we're doing in class. And then finally, you want to mention how you wrote your equation. And we did that by using that property that the midsegment is half of the third side, or the third side is double the midsegment, however you want to write it, but you should state the property in there somewhere as a way that you have written your equation. And then if you want to add a little bit in there about how you solved some of the work that you did, that's fine too. But you should try to hit all of those pieces in your reasoning. The best thing to do as well when you're doing a CER is write out claim, evidence, and reasoning. You could write it right into your answer if you choose. And then you know that you have written something next to each part and you have it down without skipping a part. I've graded so many that don't have their reasoning or maybe don't have all of the evidence. And so if you write it all out, CER, and put your answers next to it, it will really help. So again, as a final recap, you want to read your problem, label it if that helps you. Do your evidence first, all of your calculations. Make sure you're answering the ultimate question, not just solving for the variable, but then plugging it back in to solve for whatever side they're asking you for. Go back up and write your one-sentence answer claim statement. And then finally, in the reasoning section, explain what you did. How do you know you have a midsegment? What is a midsegment? What property did you use? And maybe a little bit about how you solved. Kind of pull it all together. It's kind of like your conclusion in an English essay, kind of wrapping it all up. If you have any questions, please let me know. And again, there's more practice and more review posted in the course and available in the class recordings. Thank you.